Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Overtime. Just about 2 hours ago, it appears Donald Trump has reversed his position on the Epstein files, saying that the Republicans should vote for releasing them. Now, I love Reuters. I think Reuters does a great job. The interesting thing is he has not reversed his position on the files. He's reversed his position on Congress trying to get them. Those are two different claims. Now, headlines it can be difficult to write a accurate headline, but it's important to realize that his position on the Epstein files is almost certainly unchanged. At any rate, let's see here. U.S. President Donald Trump urged his fellow Republicans in Congress to vote for the release of the files of the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, reversing his earlier resistance to such a move. And yes, he has had considerable resistance to that move. Trump's post on Truth Social comes after Mike Johnson said that he believed a vote would help put the allegations against Trump to rest, and so he scheduled the vote for next week. Now, we've had a discussion about this. This was actually not unexpected, and the reason it was not unexpected is this right here. So, the first part that has required the work of so many people for so long to get the discharge petition done. The same man who's saying, we want to release these files because that will get this behind drop all the allegations about the president. He wasn't saying that 3 or 4 days ago before the discharge petition succeeded. It's only after he lost the battle on the discharge petition that he's turned around and said, well, I've always been for this, except for all the time I've been fighting tooth and nail, including the 40 days I spent not seating an Arizona congresswoman who had every right to be seated and should have been sworn into Congress because he didn't want this thing to get done. So the discharge petition was simply a petition that would allow this resolution to come to the floor. This resolution, House Resolution 4405, the Epstein Files Transparency Act, was a resolution that would require the Department of Justice to release the files. Why would you need to require them to release the files? Well, they can release the files if they want to, but they've been refusing to, and they were subpoenaed. The files were subpoenaed by the Oversight Committee, and they came redacted. They came with Donald Trump's name redacted from many emails. The committee also subpoenaed the Epstein estate, which sent the files unredacted. So we know that the Justice Department has been redacting, and we already knew it anyway, and we've had shows covering it, but this was concrete proof because the Justice Department sends us one copy of an email and Trump's name has been removed, and then we get the other copy from Epstein's estate and the name is there. They have also refused to send a huge amount of evidence that would implicate, presumably, a great many people. Both Pam Bondi and Kash Patel have testified before Congress under oath that there is no one else to investigate. They've been over all of the files, and that there were only 2 people involved in these illegal activities, and both had been now imprisoned and or was dead. And that was Epstein and Maxwell. So, the irony of this is we already know this isn't true because Prince Andrew was implicated, and the evidence against him so strong that he was stripped of being a prince. He was stripped of being the Duke of York, and is now reduced to an ordinary citizen. That hasn't happened in, I think, a long time. It's of huge embarrassment, and the amount of evidence that he was involved, and yet according to the FBI, nobody else committed any crimes. Nobody else was involved. There's enough to indict him and bring him over. He's already been interviewed, and he clearly lied. And we know he lied in his interviews to the Justice Department because we have the emails where he emails Epstein and says, what should I do when I get interviewed by the Justice Department? How do I talk to them? And he gets coached. Now, it's absolutely impossible that Pam Bondi and Kash Patel did not perjure themselves when in Congress saying that there were no other people to investigate. Because at a minimum, they could have investigated Andrews, who has not faced justice here in the United States for crimes he committed here with underage women, according to essentially his own emails that Congress now has. So, nonetheless, the position of this government has been everybody who was involved, it's all cleaned up. They're either dead or has been transferred mysteriously. We still don't know how the transfer happened from a low security prison to a minimum security prison. Ghislaine Maxwell can actually leave the prison during the day. She can walk out, hang outside, come back, and she is allowed to play with the puppies. It turns out she wasn't supposed to be, but gosh darn it, they're puppies. They had to let her play with them. So this is a woman convicted on multiple counts of sex trafficking. She was convicted on the minimum number needed to put her in jail, basically, for the rest of her life, because they didn't want people to have to testify that didn't have to, because you would suffer cross-examination and be testifying to horrific things publicly. So only 4 people testified against her, but there is an accumulated 200 Jane Does who testified and gave some form of deposition, including one who gave a deposition in which she said as an underage girl, she performed sexual acts on Donald Trump. We know this deposition exists. You can hear her reading it on YouTube if you like. We've played it here on the show. It's in the files. So, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, there's nothing to see here. Everybody says there's nothing to see here, but they will not release it to Congress, at least unredacted, when it's subpoenaed. And they say, well, we redacted it to protect innocent people. Well, you don't know who's innocent and who's not if you're redacting the names first. And the order explicitly said they were not to redact anything, and the House committee would decide what to redact. And by the way, the coalition of victims that have come forward have all asked for the House to be given all the House Select Committee, it's not Select Committee, sorry, it's an Oversight Committee, to be given all of this information. And they've said, well, no, to protect the victims. It's not what the victims are saying. And if you really want to protect the victims, why don't you listen to the testimony of the victims that say Trump was involved? That people seem to forget, at any rate. So finally, basically, the Oversight Committee finally said, since they're ignoring the subpoenas, we are going to have to force them by law to turn over unredacted Epstein files. Because they're refusing, they're absolutely refusing. And Trump is sitting there saying, we can't turn them. All he has to say is, Pam, turn them over. And they get turned over. He's in charge. He's made that clear more than once. So when he says, I don't know why, these things. So we'll get to that. At any rate, let's talk about the act for a second. This bill requires the Department of Justice to publish in a searchable and downloadable format all unclassified records, documents, communications, and investigative materials in their possession to the investigation and prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein. This includes all material that relate to Ghislaine Maxwell, flight and travel logs, individual names, and named or referenced, including government officials, in connection with this investigation and the prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein. Pretty unambiguous. The DOJ is permitted to withhold certain information, such as personal information of victims. It makes sense and it's obvious, but it could be weaponized. And materials that would jeopardize an active federal investigation. Well, that makes sense too, but hopefully they're not going to try to find a wiggle room in there. What wiggle room? The investigation's over, and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi have already testified that having gone through all the files, there's no one left to investigate. No one. It's all closed. Then, they tried to get this passed, and Mike Johnson, rather than allow a vote on this, closed Congress early for vacation to avoid a vote on this. He then refused to put any vote on this to the floor so that nobody could vote on this bill that really shouldn't be necessary, because the House Oversight Committee subpoenaed these records, and what the DOJ replied was all lies. We know it because we have the copy from the Epstein estate. They redacted Trump's name, and they say, well, we only redacted victims' names. So Trump is a victim? Is Trump an Epstein victim? Is that why his name was redacted from the DOJ version? And they, by the way, published some of those letters to media on both the left and the right, who said, we've seen the Epstein files and Trump's name's not in them. But it is. It's just redacted. So, Johnson has been fighting this as much as he possibly can. With all of his ability, he's been fighting this to the point of, again, not allowing a congresswoman to do her job and to be sworn in after she won a special election. And at first blaming her, saying, well, all she has to do is reach out to me and we'll do it. It's like she had been calling his office every day, 4 times a day. And he refused to seat her because she would be the last vote on a discharge petition. The discharge petition basically says we're going to have a vote on this bill whether the Speaker of the House allows it or not. That's it. It discharges the resolution. It forces it to come to a vote. The Speaker has 2 weeks to schedule a vote. He doesn't have an option. So the discharge petition was waiting and was just agonizing. Marjorie Taylor Greene finally signed it. A whole bunch of people are finally signing it. And after all of this time, I don't know how many months this discharge petition's been waiting. They finally got the discharge petition signed. It got the 218 votes it needed, and that meant that the House Speaker was forced to hold an up or down hearing. So he said, okay, we'll schedule the up or down hearing for next week. 24 hours later, this happened. U.S. Justice Department investigates Epstein alleged ties to Clinton and banks at Trump's request. Trump tells Pam Bondi, and he does this on social media. She replies on social media that she will pursue this with urgency and integrity to investigate Clinton, the banks, his Treasury Secretary, to investigate LinkedIn founder Reid Hoffman, J.P. Morgan, Chase, the former Treasury Secretary Larry Simmons, and a whole bunch of others who might have been linked to Epstein. But this contradicts Pam Bondi's earlier testimony that there is nobody connected. It's already done. That's one reason they've said they don't need to release the files. There was nothing else in there. Now, he's asking that they fully investigate everybody else in there. We had a show on this and we discussed this, and what we said he was doing in this case was taking advantage of this loophole right here. The DOJ is permitted to withhold information such as the personal information of victims and materials that would jeopardize an active federal investigation. Trump just opened roughly six active federal investigations, including into Bill Clinton, his former Treasury Secretary, banks, and all of this stuff. Now that those are all open, Pam Bondi can sit there and say, I'd love to send you the files. Gosh, I would. But they're all tied to an active investigation. So I can't. And I don't have to. Because the law that you passed, this law, I think this is going to pass, this House Resolution 4405 has an exception for active investigations, which it really probably should, but the problem is Trump's abusing the system, so now you got a problem. So, what does Trump do after that? Well, if you're Trump, you've got a problem, which is you don't want to sign. This is going to become a law. It's going to come to his desk for signature, and it looks like it's going to be veto-proof. And we've talked about this. A lot of Republicans have said that they're going to flip because they will lose their races at home if they vote against this. This is a bill to hold sex trafficking, some people who are sex trafficking in minors accountable, and they voted against it? Really? So most Republicans are saying we're going to vote for it, so this is going to pass. Then Trump's got a problem. Does he sign it or does he not sign it? If he signs it, the files get released. If he doesn't sign it, they people ask why, and they may get released anyway if they veto. So he's going to have to sign it. So now that he knows he's going to have to, he has to sign it. But he can do this. He can make it part of an investigation so they can't get it anyway. So now what do you do if you're Trump? You do this. You say, hey guys, listen, I think we need to, it's been too, you know what, enough's enough. Too many people have been asking questions. Let's release those files. He can release them anytime he wants to. He's the chief executive. He's, according to him, the head law enforcement officer, and he's the first one to really control the DOJ like this. The DOJ is supposed to be independent. They're clearly not. If he says to Pam Bondi, release those files, they will get released. So he's urging them to vote on releasing the files that he could release anyway. Now, again, this is still very new, so we don't know much. All we know is that he has said that he believes they should be released, and then Mike Johnson has come out and said that by releasing them, they're going to finally put this to rest, and they're doing the right thing. Notice he's only saying that after fighting tooth and nail to keep them from being released and losing the discharge petition. Once they lost the discharge petition, both Trump and Johnson changed their tune. We've always been for this. Go for it. Let's pass this law, and we will finally find out what's in those files, except Pam Bondi could release them at any time. If she hasn't released them yet, that law isn't going to make her do it. How does she keep from doing it? Sorry, it's an active investigation. So, Trump has reversed, ostensibly, his position on the Epstein files. He now wants them released. That is utter horse shit, because he is in charge of their release. There will be a law soon, most likely. It's possible. There's talk as to why it might have trouble in the Senate. I don't believe that. I think it'll pass in the Senate, but the talk is from credible people, so who knows? I think it'll pass. And Trump is now urging Republicans, so he's giving Republicans cover. He's also taking away Republicans' ability to do the right thing, because now there's no reason not to. So it'll easily be a veto-proof majority. He's going to sign it, and he's going to be the good guy. And he's going to say when he signs it, I guarantee you, this is what he's going to say. Just so he's going to say, I have fulfilled my pledge to make America great again, to release the Epstein files. Here I am signing the document, signing Congress's demand for the files. And then Pam Bondi's going to go to him and say, okay, I've just gotten this law that says I have to release the files. Should I release them? He's going to say no. And she's not going to release them. And she's going to say, sorry, they're part of an active investigation. Then he's going to say, once the investigation into my taxes are done, you can have all my tax records. Oh, sorry. No. Once the investigation, once the investigation into Epstein and the Democrats is done, then you can have you can have all these files. That investigation's not going to be done so long as he's alive. His taxes, same thing. For those of you who remember that about his taxes, saying that, you can all see my taxes as soon as the investigation's over. And the IRS was like, no, they can see them now. We just can't release them without your permission. And he said, see, the IRS isn't releasing them. That's literally what happened. And people bought it. So to your MAGA friends who say, you see, he's really for releasing them, remind them he could have released them at any time. He could have released them before starting the open investigations. He could have released them when Pam Bondi said, there's nobody else in there. Why didn't he release it then? Why, the day after the discharge petition, suddenly Clinton and 20 other people are in there that they have to be found? They said it was over. He's said it was over. How many times has he said nobody else? Now it's everybody else. This man, revisionist history is just, it's like with the auto pen, and we covered this story last time too. I'll bring it up real quick just because I love it. It's sort of like the auto pen. He did a number of pardons with the auto pen, and he's been criticizing Biden for doing the same thing. And so the Justice Department, what they've done now is they've recreated the pardons. So every pardon that he has signed, not everyone, but a whole bunch of ones that they signed earlier, and they may be going through all of them over time, I don't know. He signed 2,000 for the January 6th guys, and he did that in apparently a day or a day and a half. Obviously, he used the auto pen. What they're doing now is, especially for the important pardons, they're rewriting the pardons and then having him sign them by hand. They are then deleting them from the Justice Department website, putting up the new ones and saying that those were there since the beginning, and anyone who thinks otherwise, it was just a technical glitch. That's literally what they argue. So as they swap out pardons that were auto pen signed. First of all, what happened to the original documents? Because if they destroy those, that's a felony. You're destroying a document, a federal document signed by the President of the United States. Even if the signature was invalid, which it's not. Even if it was, you can't destroy it because it's a federal document. But it's a pardon. And yes, it was auto pen, but it is a valid pardon. And you're destroying it so that he can have this on one level is moot. He's got, he's broken so many laws, but it's like, that's how casually, nobody really is sitting there going, you're destroying evidence. He didn't actually do anything wrong, but the perception is so important to them. The fact that Biden used the auto pen and he's never used it, and so they're rewriting it, and it is literally from 1984. Oceania has always been at war with 𝐒𝐨𝐿. They're at war with 𝐒𝐿𝐿. They've always been. Trump has always signed the pardons by hand. Trump has signed the pardons by hand now, and he has always signed the pardons by hand. And they are rewriting the Department of Justice website, which, as everybody already knows, nothing on any website from the federal government can be trusted anymore because partisan stuff comes up all the time. The Dems have shut down the government because of the Dems failing to keep Trump out of office, and all these people had to be fired, or whatever, however they're going to do it. So the entire structure, the ability to go back and look at the history of how and when he pardoned who, and all of these documents could be fake. They're sending redacted documents, possibly eventually fake documents from Epstein too. At what point, if they've done this so far, at what point do they cross the line into creating fake evidence to indict a real person in the Epstein scandal, so that anybody other than Trump, and I guarantee you Trump's thought of it. Pam Bondi hasn't. And the reason is not because she's like highly ethical or moral, but A, she's not particularly bright, and B, she's actually not particularly unethical. She's not ethical. She's not like really bound by ethics. But she knows the difference between right and wrong, and her mind just doesn't go straight through to, no, I'm going to do whatever's most expeditious. She tries the right way first, and then she's told to do it the wrong way. It's like, okay, that's how I'll do it. So how long before she starts fabricating evidence against people, Bill Clinton, the Treasury, whoever? It doesn't even have to be enough to get him convicted, just indicted. And then maybe he finds a way to prove that she's done that, but she's violated so many laws. They've all violated so many laws. Trump can pardon all of them. I mean, you can go, whack a police officer over the head with or whack a Capitol Hill police officer over the head with a fire extinguisher, and you're fine. Defecate on the desk of the Speaker of the House, and they'll give you a medal. So, anyways, it's an interesting situation to be in. I think Trump's sudden come to Jesus moment, I think the files should be released, we were reasonably sure that was where he was going to go with this. It's the most obvious and best move for him to make it at this point, because he now has actually two ways, just FYI, he's got two ways to keep the files from coming out. One he does not want to do, but he will if he has to. The first way is if there's active federal investigations, then the files aren't going to be released. The second is this bill only asks for unclassified records. Donald Trump can classify the records at any time. So, if he wants to, tomorrow, Donald Trump can wake up and say, these records are all classified, and then this law will not affect them. They could make another law for classified records, but only certain committees could see that, only certain committees could ask for it, and I don't think those committees are doing that so long as Republicans are in charge. So, we'll see. I think this gets back to what I've said before. The reason we've made as much progress as we have is because MAGA, for some reason, takes this seriously. And some people have given me some good reasons that I make sense. I get a tinge of like, because it's child rape. That's why they're taking. But I'm like, well, they don't take murder seriously. They don't take overthrowing the government seriously. They don't take hanging Mike Pence seriously. I mean, I'm glad there's a line. I was just a little surprised. And it's not just it's like they want answers. At least that's what they say. And so far, they've been going after that. If they keep doing that, he's going to have a problem with the tack that he's doing, because people are going to say, well, wait a minute. You said repeatedly that there's nobody in these files. So why are you going after Clinton and everybody else? He's got no answer for that. He'll just evade, and Fox News will help him. So as long as Fox News is on his side, he's got a pretty loud loudspeaker that is backing him up when he says some of this crazy stuff. So we'll see where it goes. But this was definitely breaking news. This was something that we wanted to make you aware of. You're going to hear about it tomorrow, and you're going to hear about it from the right as proof that Trump wants to see these released. No, it's proof that he doesn't. Because if he wanted to see these released, instead of saying, I want to see them released, let's have Congress, vote to force me to release them, why doesn't he just release them? This law is a law to force his Justice Department, his administration, to release the files. And he's saying, I'm for this law. It doublespeak. It makes no sense. Anyways, that's where we are. We're going to keep an eye on that and a few others. We're going to send you to Two Guys Talking History. They've been covering some of the stuff we've been covering, Mowdy, various channels we've been going. So you should just send there after this, but that's what we're looking at for today. And yeah, I think we'll do. I think it's set up. We'll maybe do something a little nice on the outro. But anyways, thank you all for joining us. Let me quickly just double check and make sure that we didn't get any super chats. Nope, we're good. All right. Thank you all very much. And we will see you. Let's see. I think actually we've got Tuesday at 3 p.m. We're going to have The average length of federal investigations. I don't know what the average length of, but the length against Epstein the first time. And keep in mind, by the way, this is another thing that's worth remembering. This was the second time Epstein was indicted for this shit. The first time there were 32 credible witnesses, and the FBI felt they had a slam dunk case for life in prison. And somebody made sure that didn't happen. And that's what happened the second time around, too, just by vis-a-vis a different means. So, yeah, this is everybody and everything associated with this is shady as fuck, including and most especially Trump right now. No, he's not going to release them. So thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, with Theo from Dictators versus Democracies, and it's going to be Azandrian, Commander McMillan, and myself, and we're going to talk about what is the difference between a dictatorship and a democracy, why human beings actually tend towards dictatorships, and how and why democracies are so important. I hope you will join us. Thank you, and good night.